Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. So 2020 was said to be the year of Commander, and because of that, many players were worried that this newer heightened focus on the Commander format would bring some really pushed or, overpowered cards into the format that could just kind of change or warp the format or completely dominate it. Now, in my opinion, Commander is still in a very good spot, but that doesn't mean that we didn't get some overpowered cards. So let's jump into those overpowered cards from 2020. And obviously, just a disclaimer before this, these cards are overpowered in my opinion. They might not be in your opinion, and I might not be mentioning some that you do think is overpowered. So, yeah, let's just jump into it. Let's start things off with Fierce Guardianship and Deflecting Swat, two of the free spells from Commander 2020. I believe these were from the first Commander precons from 2020. Again, there's a lot of Commander products this year, a lot of products in general this year, so it's kind of hard to keep track sometimes. Fierce Guardianship is an instant that costs 2 to blue. It says if you control a commander, you may cast a spell that paying its mana cost, counter target non-creature spell. This is basically a negate that costs 1 more, but you can cast it for free if you have your commander. In a game of Commander, most decks are built around their commander and having their commander in play. So most of the time, this is just a free counter spell, a free negate, essentially. And yeah, that's an incredibly powerful thing. Anytime you've got a free counter spell, you got to kind of look at that and say, yeah, this might be a bit overpowered. Someone, again, tries to cast a board wipe or something, and you're tapped out. But you know what? Nope, I got my commander in play. I've got this. I'm going to counter that for free. Even though you thought you'd be able to get that, board wipe through. Unfortunately, nope, I'm casting it for free. Deflecting Swat is somewhat similar. It's instant for 2 and red. It says if you control a commander, you may cast a spell that pays its mana cost. All 5 of the ones in this cycle have this exact same text. It says you may choose new targets for target spell or ability. This one is kind of a redirection spell. So again, if someone tries to path to exile your commander, any kind of, targeted removal for, anything that is yours, you can basically change that target to something else. But it's actually also a counter spell in a way. So if someone tries to counter one of your spells, you can just cast your Deflecting Swat, again for free if you've got your commander, and you can redirect that counter spell to counter Deflecting Swat, essentially, instead of countering the thing that you want to go through. So either of these, both of these are incredibly powerful, pushed, overpowered cards, in my opinion. Again, anytime you see a spell that you can cast for free, you probably should take a second look at it and be like, hey, maybe that's a bit pushed or whatnot. Again, there's plenty of free spells out there that aren't pushed, but these definitely are. Again, anytime you're dealing with countering a spell or moving a target for free, that can be an incredibly powerful thing. Next up, let's talk about some more recent cards from Commander Legends with Opposition Agent and Hull Breacher. Opposition Agent is a 3/2 human rogue with flash that costs 2 and a black. It says you control your opponents while they're searching their libraries. While an opponent is searching their library, they exile each card they find. You may play those cards for as long as they remain exiled, and you may spend mana as though were mana of any color to cast them. Yeah, this is a fantastically powerful card in the right meta. Again, I don't know if it's going to have, if either of these cards are going to have necessarily the impact in casual because certain play groups might not want to play with or against them. But yeah, Opposition Agent especially can be incredibly impactful against, fetch lands, against kind of any kind of tutors. You basically just say, okay, yeah, you tutored, now I get to take that instead. And basically kind of, you control that opponent while they're searching the library. You can search for whatever you want, and then you get access to that card that you go get. So basically, this is a way to, negate a tutor and, actually make it beneficial to you. Or it can just completely shut down all fetch lands, until this is dealt with as well. Because again, players aren't going to want to crack their fetch land until this is gone, because you're just going to get the land instead of them. One thing to note with this, and I should have looked up the ruling before I made this episode, but I know someone mentioned this in comments somewhere. You control your opponents while they're searching libraries. I believe that means you can also just look at their hand. So you can just choose to look at your opponent's hand while they're searching their library. I believe that's correct. Let me know in the comments below if that is not correct. But again, that's just another kind of additional benefit. Oh, by the way, if you search your library, I'm looking at your hand, and then I can know exactly what you're going to be doing. And then Hull Breacher is the other one, a 3/2 Merfolk Pirate with flash that costs 2 and a blue. It says if an opponent would draw a card except the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, instead you create a treasure token. Yeah, this one's incredibly powerful. It's kind of like a Narset type effect. basically like a Narset type effect and like a Smothering Tithe combined, kind of basically shutting your opponents down from drawing any more than one card, the first one they draw. And then, yeah, basically just saying, yeah, and then when you do that, instead of you getting that draw, I get treasure. It's not even just you get that treasure and they draw the card. It's, it shuts down their draw and it gives you treasure for that. So yeah, this works incredibly well with any kind of a wheel effect. Basically, you just wheel once and you probably win. You're shutting your opponents down, you're taking their hands out of the game, basically, and then you're getting a ton of treasure for that. So yeah, Hull Breacher, an incredibly impactful card. Opposition Agent, both of them very powerful. Again, I'm not sure if they're going to see a lot of casual play, but I'm sure they're going to see some CDH play. Speaking of CDH play, let's talk about Thassa's Oracle. Again, a card that definitely is dominant in the CDH community. Doesn't really see too much play in casual. A 1/3 Merfolk Wizard that costs blue. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is your devotion of blue. Put up to one of them on top of your library, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If X is greater than or equal to the number of cards in your library, you win the game. This is basically a Laboratory Maniac, but better. Again, you could probably ask the CDH community as to why this one's better. I think it's basically because it goes on the stack. It doesn't have to be out and play. But yeah, Thassa's Oracle, definitely a dominant card in certain metas, in CDH especially. But now let's move on to Allosaurus Shepherd, a 1/1 Elf Shaman that costs a green. It can't be countered. Green spells you control can't be countered. And pay 4 green until end of turn. Each elf you control has base power and toughness 5/5 and becomes a dinosaur into its other types. Basically, this card does it all for a green deck. Turn 1, this thing can't be countered. Not that people are going to be able to counter a turn 1 play most of the time, but regardless, it can't be countered. And then it makes it so that your green spells can't be countered. So if this is never dealt with, then you just have free reign to cast whatever you want in your mono green deck, except for artifacts or whatnot. But yeah, this basically says all my spells are protected. And on top of that, it can be a win condition as well, for an elf-based strategy. Basically, or an elf tribal deck. You pay 4 green, and then you make your elves into dinosaur elves, because that makes sense. Regardless, they're 5/5s instead. Most elves start up as small, 1/1s or whatnot, and you turn them into 5/5s. It's basically a +4/+4. So yeah, this is a protection spell, as well as a win condition as well. So yeah, that's just one of the reasons that this card is currently $75. Definitely a very powerful card from Jumpstart. Nyx Bloom Ancient is another one from Throne of Eldraine, a 5/5 elemental with trample that costs 4 green. Says if you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead. This card is just game ending if it stays out. We've seen plenty of mana doublers out there, which are already incredibly impactful and very powerful. A mana tripler, this is the very first mana tripler that we've seen. And yeah, this is tapping any permanent, not just your lands, not just mana rocks, anything that you tap, everything that you tap, taps for ×3. It's an incredible effect, and it's especially an incredibly impactful stacking effect if you, clone this or whatnot. This is definitely one of those cards that the game can revolve around the second it comes down. People are going to try to steal it. People are going to try to copy it, so on and so forth, because of how impactful it can be. Again, you'd pretty much just need one turn to, utilize all that mana and then just really take the game over. If you want to see this card in action, go check out the Close Quarters episode. Eddie makes a lot of use out of that mana that Nyx Bloom Ancient helps produce. So yeah, go and check that out. Speaking of mana, let's talk about a land with Agadem's Awakening / Agadem the Undercrypt. This is one of the modal dual face lands. A sorcery for X black. Return from your graveyard to the battlefield any number of target creature cards. Each have a different converted mana cost, X or less. And Agadem the Undercrypt is the land side of that. As it enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 life if you don't enter the battlefield tapped for black. These, I guess I'm just going to highlight this one as I think it's the most powerful out of the 5 mythic MDFCs. Yeah, this one is very powerful, but all of them, again, having kind of that option of it either being a land that can come into play untapped or a spell that can help you out later is huge. The amount of flexibility that this gives you, again, early on in the game, 3 life is not going to be a big deal. You can let it come into play untapped. It's basically a swamp. Again, it doesn't have that land type swamp, so you can't search for it and so on and so forth, but still, a land that can kind of be also a huge spell is huge. Again, the other ones outside the mythics all come into play tap, so those are a bit slower. This one, not slow at all. Again, gives you that option early on in the game to be just a land that you can use, or a huge spell late game that can be game ending. Again, the kind of power levels when it comes to all these, the 5 mythics. Again, I think the number 1 is probably Agadem's Awakening. The other ones are still very powerful, but yeah, a giant reanimation spell on top of having the flexibility of being a land when you need it is huge. Speaking of lands, a new land cycle, I guess a finishing of the land cycle that we saw in Commander Legends is going to be the continuation of those Battlebond lands. Like Rejuvenating Springs. Enters the battlefield tapped unless you have 2 or more opponents. Taps for green or blue. These are basically just commander duels, essentially. Yeah, so these are very powerful cards. Obviously, their price tag is probably going to stay high and go even higher until they're reprinted, and the other Battlebond ones are reprinted as well. But yeah, having kind of lands that can come into play untapped, it can tap for 2 colors, is huge. Obviously, these are even better than shock lands in many circumstances. You're not going to have to shock yourself. They're basically, again, dual lands, except when you just have one opponent left, then they are not. But yeah, most of the time in a game of Commander, these are going to be able to come down untapped and be a dual land for you. I guess I should mention too, unlike the alpha dual lands, they also do not have kind of that land type, so you can't search for them, but still, incredibly powerful things. And that, again, that was the final kind of 5 cards of that cycle from Battlebond. Let's move on to some commanders, though, with Kinnan Bonder Prodigy. A 2/2 human druid that costs green-blue. Whenever you tap a non-land permanent for mana, add 1 mana of any type that permanent produced. 5, green-blue. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a non-human creature card from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest of them on your library in a random order. So yeah, like Nyx Bloom Ancient, this one kind of is giving you excess mana. This one kind of on the lower side, though. It's a 2-mana commander, but it does kind of make it so that any of your non-land permanents tap for additional mana. So it's more specific, but still very powerful. It can combo with certain things. It can get you way ahead of your opponents. And again, it gives you kind of a way to dump your mana into its ability to get free things off the top of your library. Kind of like an Urza. Again, Urza deals with, giving your, making your artifacts tap for mana, and then you can dump all that mana in. Again, it's kind of that combination that can be incredibly deadly. The ability to give you a lot of mana and the ability to dump that mana into something. Yeah, Kinnan is very powerful. This one's from Ikoria. The final card that I want to talk about is one that kind of the more and more I think about it, the more and more powerful it seems, and that's Sakashima of 1,000 Faces from Commander Legends. A 3/1 human rogue that costs 3 and a blue. You may have Sakashima of 1,000 Faces enter the battlefield as a copy of another creature you control, except it has Sakashima of 1,000 Faces other abilities. The legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control, and it's got partner. This is a partner that basically gives you another copy of your other partner, and it gives you access to blue if you didn't already have access to blue. Basically, I think that is probably the more partners that come out, the more powerful this becomes, because the more options that you have kind of when you find, another powerful commander, like maybe a Vial Smasher the Fierce, and now you're saying, okay, I get 2 Vial Smashers, so I get that ability twice, and then also I get access to blue. And then actually, if I want to add more clones to the deck, I can just clone them as well, and then get even more copies of Vial Smasher, and so on and so forth. Yeah, Sakashima. Again, there are many people who said that this one should have been colorless. I actually think, yeah, probably should have been colorless. So it's not just giving you access to blue on top of, giving you an extra one of your commanders. Again, if you already have blue for your partner commander, or your other partner commander, then you're not getting extra access. But still, for the other commanders that do not have blue, this gives you extra access to another color on top of giving you another copy of that commander, essentially. Yeah, time will tell exactly how powerful this one is. Again, there are a lot of partner combinations out there, and the more partners that come out, the more powerful, in my opinion, this one becomes. So yeah. But yeah, those are my picks for the most overpowered cards from 2020, but now it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think I mentioned a card that I think is overpowered and you don't think it is? Do you think I didn't mention a certain overpowered card and I should have? So yeah, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, thanks again and have a good one.